Hi, welcome to the channel SportsMed Doctor. I'm Dr. Siddharth Unithan. Today I'll be speaking about the horrific injury of Raul Jimenez. So Raul Jimenez plays for the Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League. Last Sunday they were playing against Arsenal, and during a corner kick, when the ball was coming in, David Luiz went to head the ball and he had an impact directly on Raul Jimenez. Now what happened exactly was David Luiz went for the ball and he hit directly onto the side of head of Raul Jimenez, and both of them fell down. Raul immediately collapsed. He was totally unconscious while David Luiz kept on turning, and immediately all the players started shouting and screaming for the medical team to rush forward because he had become unconscious. Now the medical team rushed over. They examined him, they stabilized him, they took him to the hospital where they had he was breathing fortunately and he was stable, and in the hospital they did a scan and they found out that he had a depressed fracture for which he underwent surgery. So now what I would like to say is about what steps did the doctors do immediately when they go rush forward, because that's the most interesting part as sportsmedicine physician, and usually all you fans out there always have a question also: what does the doctor do, what does a physio do? A physio along with the doctor, usually the doctor, the sports medicine doctor and the physio together, they form a team and they do the emergency services. So what is exactly done over here? So immediately when a player collapses, if it is a non-contact collapse, the doctor can rush forward without the referee calling over. But if it's a contact, unless usually immediately, if he's unconscious, immediately the referee calls the medical team and the medical team rushes into the field. Usually what happens is that first thing what we look is whether he's conscious or not. If he's unconscious, we will check for his vitals, to check if his pulse is there, how is his heart rate, or whether he's breathing. Now next thing what we check is whether his airway is patent. So basically we use a protocol, usually the BLS protocol, basic life support protocol, and there is the advanced cardiac life support protocol. So we use those protocols to check whether he is stable, and once we know that there is no risk to his life, next thing what we do is that we stabilize his position. So in this case, if you see Raul's position, he was onto the side, he was not straight flat lying down, so he was on his side. So immediately one person will stabilize his neck so that there is no movement of the neck, because he hit his head. Now we don't know whether there is any neck injury. Now if you move his neck wrong, there can be worsening of the injury. So the one person will stabilize the neck while the other person immediately, while the other team members will set up the scoop stretcher basically, and rotate him using the leg roll, the log roll usually. And now once he's stabilized, he's moved properly, he's tightened up, his neck is stabilized with usually a neck collar and neck cushion, and there won't be any movement of his neck possible, and he's stabilized properly, and then he's lifted and brought into a trolley. Now that's one thing which I appreciate in this video. If you see the Arsenal medical team as well as the Wolves team together work together to stabilize him and to bring him onto the trolley, and how they carried him was really beautiful to see. And once they carried him and they brought him into the trolley, and from the trolley they rushed him into a trauma center. Now based on FIFA rules, all stadiums, if on football matches, should be linked to a hospital. So you see always 4 people sitting on the sidelines. This usually in India, what we can say is that this usually is from the local medical team, usually from a hospital, local hospital, their team will be sitting there. In bigger teams such as Manchester United or Arsenal or Fulham or whichever big teams are there, they will have usually their own medical team who sits over there, and always it will be linked to the hospitals. So immediately if any emergency occurs, so in such cases they will shift him through the ambulance. So there's always ambulances out there for there are usually ambulances for the stadium people, those who come to watch, the spectators basically, as well as for the players. There are separate ambulances kept, and this is one of the methods in which how we manage occasion, an event which occurs over there. Now in Raul's case, he was immediately taken by trolley into the ambulance, and he was airshifted to a trauma center, and from in the trauma center, since he was breathing normally, they stabilized. They immediately took him to a scan to see if any brain injury is there, because that's the first thing what we are worried about, is there if there is any bleed. So usually the brain contains a lot of blood vessels and along the skull area, and any impact on the skull can cause damage onto the brain, and that can cause bleeding, and that can cause hemorrhage, blood clots, all of those. Now what happens is, in this case, luckily there was only a depressed fracture. Usually in fractures or skull fractures, there's no requirement for a surgery. It's just wait and observe. We give medications to prevent any brain swelling. But in his case, since there was a depressed fracture, I'm assuming, because there's no report out there, I'm assuming that it would have been more than 0.5 millimeters, in which case usually a surgery is done to reduce any impaction onto the brain, to reduce the impact, because it's a depressed fracture, so it's bent down a little bit. Now that is corrected, and the surgery was successful. He became conscious, and he even interacted with his wife, which is a good sign. Now coming to the return to play. So when can he come back? Now that is a very difficult question to say, because his injury was quite serious. So first we have to look upon his neurological levels, whether he's got any brain damage, how is his reaction time, his reaction speed. A full proper neurological evaluation will be done. If there is no brain injury as such, then a concussion protocol will be done. But since he has got a skull fracture, definitely there should be some form of injury, which will give him time out definitely. And hopefully if there is no brain injury, then you can see him much more quicker than what is expected. The basic reason why I took this video is to speak about concussion and about his injury. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any comments, please put below. Thank you for watching the video. Please do comment and subscribe. Thank you.